So I think for me the most exciting thing, I think, having you as my first guest on.
I feel so honored. Can I
Listen,
say, dude,
listen. I'm very, very excited to have you. I feel like the way where you are in your life right now kind of reminds me of the transitions that I'm also experiencing.
That's amazing.
I mean, this is a new YouTube channel,
Completely.
This
And
is
not just
brand new
a channel. It feels like a show and like a new, I think, ushering a new kind of like online content, video content space in SA. So I'm super excited for you.
It's not about me, Karen. This is not about me. What I wanted to say was that it's really important. It's really important to me that you are, you know, the first person because of your journey, but also because of like just the craziness of. It's been like what has it been? 2 years? Less than 2 years now.
Completely.
Right?
Literally just over 2 years actually.
Just over 2 years.
And I think it's just, it's so fascinating that I think we plan our journeys and it doesn't go as we imagine and it's tumultuous, but it's part of the process. It's beautiful and it's crazy, and just understanding that like sometimes you just have to trust the universe and go with it. So I never imagined that this is where I would be right now in 2018. But I'm so grateful and I'm just so excited, and you know, it's a beautiful start.
Okay, let's talk about the start.
Sure.
Because you mentioned Limpopo, but you also mentioned Cape Town quite a bit.
Yes.
So born where, bred where, which is...
Okay, dude. So this is a crazy story. So I was born in Polokwane.
Okay.
My dad was Spedi, or is Spedi, my mom's Zulu. So I was born, hey, right? KZN not sure.
No, I'm just getting where the flavor comes from. As you were.
That's where the spice and the,
Yes.
dude. So, super crazy story. So my mom passed away when I was 16 months old. So my dad's like, and you know how black families are like, oh, let's take her in, whatever. And my dad was like, no ways, I'm raising this my daughter. But he was still overwhelmed. He's like a black man, dude, in like the 80s, doesn't know what to do. So I go live with like extended family, but maybe like 15 minutes away from like home.
Okay.
For maybe a year and a half, he gets remarried. I moved back in with her, but then I don't know because I'm so young. I don't know it's not my mom.
Yeah.
So I'm raised thinking this woman is my mom. So that's how. So we intend Polokwane, you know, happy family, whatever. And then we end up moving to Cape Town when I'm around 10 years old because they had like all their difficulties or the differences. She moves to Cape Town, doesn't tell anyone. That time, my dad and her have like a daughter and a son, so it's like 3 of us. And my dad's like, bro, what the hell? So eventually he's trying to like salvage the marriage. We then all moved to Cape Town, and that's how we ended up in Cape Town. And I lived there for about, collectively 15 years.
Yeah. Okay, so you were bred there. You know,
yes.
like, so born in PLK?
Yeah.
Bred in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And where did you go to school? University? I actually tried to nothing about that anywhere. So fill me in.
That's so funny. Okay, cool. So I started varsity in Varsity College. No, I lie actually. First I was at CPUT.
Okay, cool.
For my first year, doing business management, dropped out because I hated it. And then, because I always knew, I always knew I wanted to be a writer. Like I knew that fundamentally, and my dad pushed me in it. So then I did the following year. I was at Varsity College, still in Cape Town, doing psychology and English as my second major. Funds ran out. My dad was like, so was at home for like, and also when I dropped out of like CPUT, didn't tell my dad till like months later, so he found out. And then, so I did my first year fully, and then he didn't have money to send me to school. So I was at home for a year, super depressed, and then it was just crazy, like, because my dad didn't have money anymore at all. We got evicted, and my dad was like, listen, you kind of have to go back to like home and live with like my family because I actually can't do this anymore. So then I moved back to Limpopo, and then I finished at University of Limpopo, finished my degree there, and yes, that's why you can't really find it online.
It's so interesting about the writing thing. You never expect your parents to get that.
Yeah, fully, 100%.
You know what I mean? I think parents that deal with creative kids have the hardest time.
Completely.
We're so unpredictable. We want to do all these things.
Exactly.
You know
and they
I mean?
don't understand it.
The one day I've got a job and now I've got a YouTube channel, and I was just like, yeah, but how are you going to pay rent?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you're not a CA, like what is this thing?
What do you think made your dad as supportive as he was? Do you think it's because it was just him, or do you think is he a writer? Is there a creative?
Not even. Like my dad dropped out of school when he was like in grade 5. So I think for him, that's why he pushed me into like business management, because he just thought this is a really like...
Just get something that's going to give him money.
Right, exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit of a challenging personality. I just did not give this man a choice. Like, I was like, yo, you know, this is what I want to do. And obviously, I'm not going to be great at whatever I'm studying if I'm not happy. So, I mean, like I'm saying, so I studied it for a year. And then when I had to go to, like, Limpopo, I couldn't do it because the structure was so different.
Yeah.
So I literally only did English for 1 year. But it was something I was still so immensely passionate about that, like, the universe just kind of made it happen, like, you know, in the end, so.
And then FCG. And then Ogilvy.
Yes, okay. So I then studied, was like unemployed for a year after graduated, because psychology degree, undergrad, you really can't do anything. Then I moved back to Cape Town. My dad also wasn't happy about it. Started working at a company called Celebrity Services Africa. They do like Bonang's PR now. They do like all these amazing brands. I was there for a year. And then I moved back to Joburg. Well, I moved back to Joburg. Moved to Joburg. I worked at Ogilvy. Ogilvy was like my dream agency. I applied like 14 times in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So when I got him, like, of course I'm gonna go. But because I just understanding how overprotective my dad was, I was like, okay, cool. I planned everything. Maybe 2 hours before I was meant to leave, I called him. I'm like, so I'm moving to Joburg because I got a job. If you want to say bye, you can come, or it's chilled. And he's like, what the hell? So obviously he's like, calls his bike, hugs me and whatever.
Is the only way to do it?
But I just think my dad, like my dad's just the most supportive person now ever, because he understands, listen, this person's going to do what she wants to anyway. And he just, I think he understands my drive and my passion and just how focused I am about things. So honestly, like, I mean, I left my job. I still didn't tell him, but he found out like recently. And he's just, he's so supportive. He's like, yes, do what you need to do. You're young, you don't have responsibilities. And I trust and believe in you so much. Anything you need, I'm here for you. So.
And I guess it's so different because you always hear about a mom-daughter dynamic, you know, and now you have a mom-dad, a daughter-dad dynamic.
Completely.
How difficult was it have you had the conversation with your dad, like when you realize that was not your mom? Do you sit down and then say, have the conversation, or do you just move on? Like, how do you?
So it was so nice. So we're in Cape Town. I'm in grade 6. I'm about 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
We never had this conversation. And now they're going through like a lot of stuff. Like she's like, she was younger than my dad, so I think she just wanted her youth and her freedom.
But was she feeling like your mom? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I never knew any different.
Okay.
I never knew any different. But when we moved to Cape Town, I could feel like a difference. I just didn't understand what it was, and I'm so young, I couldn't place it. So then so my dad obviously sold our house, everything. We're living in a bachelor flat. It's 5 of us. Like, it's crazy at the time. I can't recall, it's either me or my sister finds a picture of my mom. And like one of us asked, oh, who is this? Because we'd never seen that before. We obviously didn't know it's not family. And then my dad's like, oh, never mind, it's my sister or something. We're like, chill.
And she looks like?
Dude, right? And then, so after this, my dad's like, maybe, I can't remember, half an hour later, he's like, you know, come with me, I'm going to take you to the staircase, because that's the only private place. And then he shows me this image, and he's like, so actually, that's not your mother, this is your mother. She passed away when you were 16 months old. And I'm like, I don't even remember like my reaction. Like, you can't even comprehend that at all at the time. And I think from there, they got the divorce and stuff. And so there was no conversation after that ever about my mother until maybe like my 20s. And I think the realest conversation was maybe last year, when I was like, I do feel this void. I don't know my mother in any capacity. I don't know her family, and I do need to, in a weird way, I kind of want.
Find a connection of
100%, 100%.
Even if
like,
you find an aunt, you know, somebody who looks like her, or somebody who has a personality, you know, just something that's going to connect you.
And that's exactly what happened. He tracked down her family. He came from Cape Town. He was like, he took me there, introduced. And I was just like, okay, cool. I was at peace after that. But it was a very, very like tumultuous journey. I was depressed for the longest time. But now I can speak to my dad because we have that relationship. But it took so much work. So, but I'm happy and at peace now.
I mean, I can only imagine he's dealing with his own.
100%. 100%.
How do you, I think, I mean, I'm not a parent, But I can only imagine you're thinking, if I could tell her,
yeah,
I could tell her at 4 years old.
Completely.
I'm breaking her heart for what?
Exactly.
For what?
That's exactly what he said. And I think as an adult, that's when I understood. And there wasn't anger or anything. I was like, okay, cool. If I was in his position, he was dealing with his own pain as well. And he said as well, he's like, he wanted to, but like, when is the right time? When is the right opportunity to ever tell someone this, you know? So I think I understood that, and I respected him a lot. And I was like, he just hit it the best with the circumstances that he was dealt with. So.
And now fast forward.
Oh my God. So yes, come down to Ogilvy. And yeah, I mean, there obviously wasn't anything wrong with Ogilvy. It's a really great agency, but it just wasn't a good fit. And I think it just takes understanding your journey and where you need to be, and just trusting sometimes that that's not where I needed to be at that space in my journey. So I was there for 5 months, left, and then I was at FCB, which amazing like agency. I loved it. I was there for almost 2 years.
And what about agency? What do you think you still carry about agency now? What has agency taught you that kind of that caters to
100%. It was so needed. I had so many difficulties with agency, like a lot of like lack of representation, being a black woman. Yeah, man, it was so challenging, and I got into trouble sometimes. I won't lie, because I'm always very vocal on Twitter, and I get into a lot of trouble. Yes. But I needed that experience. Like, I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now in my career had I not had that. So it was so essential, and I'm so grateful now. But at the time, it doesn't feel like, you know.
I think, you know, I get that thing that you're saying about agency. I also have an agency background, and I think I think at some point in your life, you're just like, okay, it's a great job. Yeah. But it's just not me.
Exactly. I can't do this anymore
job,
fully,
it's just
dude.
Not me.
100%.
Yeah, because you can't get to that point where you're just sick of applying.
Completely.
Because everything just feels like a detour from what you actually want to do with your life. Right?
And it sounds so crazy, because I'm always like, when I feel like a little bit of unhappiness or just, I don't know, uneasy in my life, I know this is the universe or something within myself telling me you don't belong here anymore.
Shaking you to get up.
Exactly. And that's what happened at like agency, especially like at FCB. I think I was just past that point in my life. And I was trying to hold on because it's safe and it's great and all these things. And at some point I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is not for me. This is not the path that I need to be on. So I left August of last year.
Do you leave without a plan?
There was no plan. There was no. It was
You're
so crazy.
Nomad.
I'm
Actually,
still like.
I saw you retweet. I don't know if you no, it was a quote.
Yes.
Something about please.
Oh my God. I always knew I would be a nomad. I didn't know my dreams would lead me there. There was a quote, and I saw that I was like, what? Fire.
That just like. That grabbed my whole heart, because I feel like such a fool sometimes.
No,
you know, you go from one job to the other to the other when you don't find the happiness. And people look at you and they're like, but I don't understand, you're so smart.
Exactly.
Like, you could totally be a director, and it's like, I don't want to be.
100%.
I really
100%.
don't want to be. I'd rather be an assistant on my own channel than be a director at an agency. You know?
And it takes so much like understanding yourself on such a real deep level to be like, this is what success looks like to a lot of other people, but it doesn't fulfill me, and it's not my journey. Exactly, it's 100%, but it's not for me, and it's not what I need to be doing with my life. So.
And then you made that decision, and then I just kind of want to understand from FCB, when the call came in from 6th Avenue, and where were you? How did you feel? Did you have plans? You know, because I mean, you're leaving FCB, you don't know the calls coming in, so what was the plan?
Oh my God, so it was crazy because. Okay, now I need to go back a little bit, and I'm so bad at explaining things. So from the whole idea of like the online magazine, or when I worked for the previous publication I worked for, it was something that I had presented to someone 5 years ago. So it's something that, and I've always been
banked.
Honestly, from the time I was like 16, I knew I wanted to be a writer. Like, I knew it. When I was 18, I was like, oh my God, editor. Like this, I worship Anna Wintour. Like, so it's something I always felt so much in my heart, but it just felt like the craziest dream. Like, this is nuts, it will never happen. But I held on to it just because it was like idealistic and romantic. So I presented this to someone 5 years ago, and then I was then contacted. So this was 2.5 years ago. So it was Feb of my math is so bad. I want to say 2016, yes. I did start in grade math. So, and he was like, yeah, like from 6 I've just been like, we can finally do this. Like, I have the funding, like, you know, this can be so fire. And I was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. But obviously,
so you went in wanting to be
as editing
as
to
editor
100%, completely. And obviously it evolved to like business partner to owning 20% of it. But I was still working a full-time job, and I think that was part of like the challenge of like trying to pursue this dream and something I'm so passionate about, but still having to be responsible and working like a full-time job. And eventually I needed both of those things, but you know, I learned what I needed to learn, made the connections.
So the call came in while you were still at FCB?
Completely.